Comfortably Zoned Radio Network presents Remembering Dynasty with Peter Golenbock.
We're back, Remembering Dynasty and much, much more with Peter Golenbock. Bums to all those books. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. Just fine.
How
was your week?
Good. When last we spoke, you were, and we have a guest in studio, as it were. My co-host on another show on this network, which is New York Baseball, past, present, and future. He's been here before. Wayne Unger, Peter Golenbock.
How you doing, Peter? How you doing, Ralph?
Fine, thank you, Wayne. A real pleasure.
Good. We're going to talk your experience of the past week or so. You went down to Tampa, and or you went up to New York from Tampa, and
St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg, right? Absolutely. But I bet you flew out from Tampa, right?
Yes, Tampa International
Okay.
Airport. That's right.
And you went up to New York for what reason, sir?
Every year since 1984, there's a league called the American Dreams League, and there are 12 team owners who pick baseball teams. We pick 14 hitters and 10 pitchers. We get $260 to pick them, and each team gets, only one team can have a particular player. So basically, it's American League only, and we pick teams.
Right.
And we follow them. We follow them for the rest. It's Rotisserie.
Yeah, or as it's known today as Fantasy League as well. And you have the second oldest group of folks that play ever. I mean,
the original Fantasy or Rotisserie League for the National League was founded in 1981, and they the next year founded an American League, and that's the league to which I joined in 1984. So I've been doing this
Tell me about the participants.
Years.
They're all champions.
They are. Alex Patton. I'm not sure the names would mean a lot to you.
Well, they do to me because I used to be a roto guy. I'm not anymore, but so the names do mean a lot to me in terms of.
Yeah, well, Larry Fine used to be the sports editor of, I believe, Newsweek.
Right.
We have Alex Patton, who was one of the very first people to come up with every year with what players are valued. Steve Stoneburn, Walter Shapiro, who writes for Politics for one of the big internet publications. He's part of the group. Bruce Buchel, who was a fine magazine writer, he's certainly one. Mark Starr, who used to be the sports editor, I believe, of Newsweek, he's part of the group. So this is a group of very, very knowledgeable, invested baseball crazies. Every one of us.
Right.
Wasn't Larry Fine a member of the Three Stooges?
Larry Fine was definitely a member of the Three Stooges. That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
This is a different Larry Fine, of course.
I know. I'm just being a smart ass.
You are. But yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly right. I've known some of these people longer than I've known just about anybody.
Oh, nice. And you have friendly rivalries, and you trade with each other during the season, or your teams
It's not particularly friendly. It's very competitive.
Okay.
The very first year I was in the league, I didn't really understand how it worked. I had fallen in love with one of the Yankee rookie outfielders. For the life of me, I can't remember his name right now, and I really wanted the guy. So I called up one of the owners and said, what would you like from my team if I, Dan Pasqua was his name. Dan Pasqua. Dan Pasqua was worth about $2, and I ended up trading him Jim Rice, who was a $30 hitter at the time, which just made everybody else in the league crazy because it was like the stupidest goddamn you could possibly do. But you learn. You learn from these things. You learn who to trade with, who not to trade with. One of the owners called me up one day and said, "How would you like so-and-so?" I said, "Great." He was a pretty good hitter, and I traded him a pretty good, player for that guy. And this was before the internet. And come to find out the next day that he had broken his leg.
Oh.
He had better information than I had. He traded me a player who had broken his leg. So again, you learn who to deal with, who not to deal with. In 1985, I wrote a book called How to Win at Rotisserie Baseball. I did that for 5 or 6 years. It was sort of a Bible for quite a long time. Yep. 'Cause it was a hoot. We had a player. We had one of the guys in our league was insane. He was getting married. It was his wedding night, and he said to his wife, "Excuse me," and he went out to a payphone because he had an idea for a trade that he wanted to make. And so this is what he was doing on his wedding night. He was calling somebody to propose a trade, and I would tell, I would call the rotisserie players, and they would tell me their stories, and it was an awful lot of fun. Of course, as you can guess, as the internet became more and more successful and popular and important, you could then begin to get information that was in the book, online.
Right.
And that kind of killed it, which was a shame. I held on to it for as long as I possibly could. I think I've got 4 or 5 editions of it. It was just wonderful fun. Well, and
I didn't realize that you were into it on that level, and I thought basically when you said you were going down there, and I thought it was just kind of a thing that you did, but there is passion in it, and there is competitiveness in it.
You better believe it.
I used to, when I had my team, they were the California Sea Otter, and not plural, otter. I just cared about one of them. And one day I got what I call schmaltzed. I had schmaltz.
Okay. Right.
And he pitched 1/3 of an inning. Mm-hmm. And gave up like 6 earned runs.
Okay.
Well,
that's possible.
That's not good. That basically could kill your season.
Well, I'll tell you what can kill your season. That's not going to kill your season. I'll tell you what's
the
going to
momentum
kill your season.
of that. Okay, well, what
killed
all my seasons then? I was always blaming it on Schmaltz.
Yeah, well, could be, but who was the wonderful? He was both a Yankee and a Met. He was a right-hander, and he looked like the bad guy in Terminator.
David Cohn?
I'm talking about Arnold. I'm talking about the other guy. He was a right-handed pitcher, pitched a no-hitter, maybe even a perfect game for the Yankees.
So that was David Cohn. Ralph was right. David Cohn.
David Cohn. Okay, so one year I paid $28 for David Cohn because clearly he was going to be, the guy. And if you pay $28 for David Cohn, he better win 15 or 16 games or you're not going to get your money worth. The third outing, this was in late April, David Cohn as well as broke his arm. He had such arm pain that he was out for the rest of the season. That's what ruins your season. And that's
how about this? How about trading?
That's when you go and sit shiva.
Right. How about trading Glavine for Strawberry with the Dodgers, and on opening day he suspended for the year? I thought you trade a pitcher for a position player, 2 superstars, you can't lose. Opening day he was suspended. I think it was 91, 92, something like that.
Yeah, that's when you just you
right.
jump off a roof. You just jump
throw
off
your eyes up to the heavens and
exactly.
All right.
Exactly
Tell us both about some of the picks that you made this year. I want to hear.
This year?
'Cause we're going to be following them.
Oh, okay. I'll be glad to. So far, I have started off with. I've started with. I finished last year, so I was only able to keep 4 players. So I kept 4 pitchers. I kept Chris Archer at $21. I kept Drew Smiley for $18. I kept Marcus Stroman of Toronto, who's going to be tremendous, for $10. And I was able to trade 3 of my players for Matt Moore at $3. So I started with a really terrific, group of starting pitchers. And I added to that group of starting pitchers, Doug Fister of Houston, who won the other day. And then the other 5 of my pitchers are relief pitchers. I have Doolittle of Oakland, who just won, he saved another game today. I have Miller of the Yankees, who is just tremendous. Paid $11 for him. Actually, I should probably tell you what I paid for these people. It makes more sense to know what you paid for them, which I shall do immediately.
Okay.
And so I paid for Andrew Miller. I paid $11. Ryan Matson, who backs up Doolittle, I paid $2 for him because I wanted to make sure in case something happened to Doolittle that I'd be okay. And in fact, Matson has saved 2 games this year by himself. And I've got a guy by the name of Jake Petricka, who is a Chicago White Sox relief pitcher for $1. I mean, you can't have all stars. You've got to have $1
Oh, of
guys.
course, you have a budget.
Yep, and I got a guy named Enny Romero, who's a Tampa Bay Ray, and I paid $1 for him because there's always a possibility with the Rays that he could get a junk save here and there.
Right.
For hitting, I spent the most money I spent was $31 on Jose Abreu, who's a pretty damn good hitter. He had 36 home runs last year. I got Kyle Seager, the third baseman for Seattle, for $24. And I paid $24 for Troy Tulowitzki because finding shortstops who hit home runs and drive in runs is rare. So I thought that he would be a good person to have. And then after that, important, Nelson Cruz, Seattle, I paid $29 for him. So I've got some very good. Now the rest of the way
is a bench is included. Am I correct?
You got 14 hitters. It's not a bench.
Okay.
14 hitters. So you've got to fill out 2 catchers, a first baseman, second baseman, shortstop, third base, middle, corner, 5 outfielders, and a utility player, basically a DA. So I got Kendrick Morales. I don't know how I got him for $11. He's a steal. The guy had a tremendous year last year. I've got 2 cheap catchers.
Yes.
Two cheap catchers. I'm hoping that Kurt Casale will be worth the $4. I got Giovanni Soto for $1, and he's terrible. And somewhere along the line, I'll replace him. I don't know how I got him. Omar Infante, the second baseman for the World Series Kansas City team, for $2, and I just don't know how that happened, but it did. And then I got Alcides Escobar, who is the shortstop for Kansas City, and I got him for $14. I got a fellow by the name of Byung-Ho Park. Byung-Ho Park led the Korean Baseball League for the last 2 years in home runs, and he signed with Minnesota. So he's cheap, and he's a rookie, so nobody knew exactly what he's going to do. So every once in a while, you've got to take a chance on somebody. So we
with a big upside, a guy with a big upside.
That's right. So we plunked down $12 on him. I liked the way Jackie Bradley Jr. played for Boston in September last year, so I plunked down $9 for him. Somehow we got a guy named Raymond Fuentes, who, believe it or not, is playing for Kansas City in the outfield for $1. Don't know how we got Rajay Davis, the leadoff hitter for Cleveland, for $4. And then we got Rusney Castillo, who absolutely nobody else wanted, for $2. And I have a feeling he's going to have a pretty good year this year. So those are all my players. And right now, the Rays pitchers are not doing very well.
Now I'd like Mr. Unger to comment on that draft. What you like, what you don't like.
Well, you know what?
And it's not very interesting, quite frankly.
No, you know what it is? It's like I can't comment so much for fantasy. Peter, I did fantasy once back around 1985, 1986. I'm more into stat replay. I don't know if you're familiar with a game called Diamond Mine Baseball.
Nope, not at all.
Well, picture like do you remember Stratomatic?
Oh, I played Stratomatic all the time, but if I may say so, the people listening to this program don't give two damns about my rotisserie team. I mean, if you want to talk about baseball, we should do that, but nobody cares about my rotisserie team. I'm telling you.
Well, no, they don't care about rotisserie teams, but they care about the dynamics of having a rotisserie league.
Well, we can talk about that. I'd be happy to talk about dynamics.
Well, how about, let me ask you then, on days when you're a Tampa Bay Ray fan. So on days when the Tampa Bay Rays are sitting out there on a Sunday, your pitcher is pitching against the Rays. There has to be a certain amount of, you ask yourself, boy, this is crazy. Here I am, right?
No, it happens every year. It happens. Okay. It absolutely happens every year. And
that
what
ruin
you hope for one of two things. You either hope the Rays beat them 1-0, or you hope that your pitcher beats the Rays 1-0. You'll go either way. You'll take either one.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And then
or you hope he exits with a 0-0 tie, and then the Rays score it later in the game. Exactly.
Well, that's okay too. Yeah. That's okay too. You want the thing that hurts your home team the least and hurts your rotisserie team the least. And of course, sometimes you have your pitcher pitching against your hitter.
Absolutely.
And then sometimes you've got to decide.
There's a story about the batter that hits the pitcher in the face and pulls his hamstring going to first base. Hits your pitcher, your batter hits your pitcher in the face and pulls his hamstring. So and we're talking. I think we're talking off the air about being smoltzed one day. So it's fun. It adds a dynamic to it. It adds a facet to the following baseball that is very difficult to understand for a lot of people who aren't crazy about baseball.
But at the same time, it's very easy to understand for millions. I mean, it is one of those wonderful inventions, and I give those fellows who invented the game back in La Rotisserie Française, back when all the credit in the world. I mean, it's a genius thing that they did. It makes people who love the game of baseball incredibly happy. It keeps you involved in the game very much as though you were a general manager.
Right, and for those of us who think that our team's general managers aren't doing the job or think, well, I could do a better job, try it sometime.
Well, here's your chance. Try it sometime.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And every Monday you look at the list of free agents, and because there are plenty of people who come up from the minors and are all of a sudden available. And every Monday we are given, each of us, $50 in what we call free agent money. And so if you see somebody that you want, you can bid anywhere up from $1 to $50 for that player. Obviously, if you bid the $50, you don't have any more for the rest of the season. So most of the time you're bidding $1 and $2 and $3 for somebody in the hope that they come up and they're decent. I mean, that's part of the game too. There's, no matter how much you know, there's always tons that you don't know. I mean,
so Peter, with your free agent system, do you find yourself reading Baseball America quite regularly or following minor leaguers more than the average fan?
Every day.
Okay, you and I both. How much time do you put into preparing for your draft?
A week, generally a week. The week before. You make a list of every player. You see Alex Patton, who is a genius. Every year comes out with his prices, and I pay Alex $36 like clockwork, and then he sends his prices to my computer. And then if I think his prices are right, I go with his prices. If I think they're higher, I make them a little higher. If they're lower, if I don't think the player is quite as good as Alex thinks, I make them a little lower. And so I have listed in alphabetical order all the catchers, all the first basemen, on a different page, all the second basemen, all the shortstops, third basemen, outfielders, and then, of course, the pitchers. I mean, this takes a certain amount of work, and every single one of us does it. We all do it. And we are prepared to sell. We know every pitcher and every player in the American League when we go into that draft.
Do you pay attention to magazines that come out?
There's one magazine that comes out by Peter Kreutzer.
Athlon? Is that the one?
Roto something or other. Peter Kreutzer is in our league, and it tells me who the rookies are going to be. Though you can find an awful lot of this material you can find on the internet.
Right.
ESPN has information. All sorts of people have information. It's really astounding. CBS. The baseball draft prior to the season is huge. Absolutely huge.
Now, who does the game? Is it on Yahoo, or who administrates the game itself?
It's called On Roto. Our outfit is called On Roto. ONROTO.
Oh, okay. And
you go to it, then you put in your password, and you get, the first thing that comes up is your league. Here, I got it in front of me right now. Let me go back.
Yeah, and they keep all the stats, and they tell you who's pitching the next day. And
what's wonderful about it, they keep it up minute by minute. By minute, they keep it up. That's what's so astounding.
Yahoo does that. So you can look and you see how you're doing, and so you have 2 or 3 favorite teams, and you have your Roto team, and of course there's the Yankees. Wayne is as big a Yankee fan as I know, and except for you, Peter. I mean, naturally go back. What do you think's going on this year? Both of you give me, much more about it. Talk about what's going on with the Yankees and what you think.
Well, let Wayne go first, and I'll chime in after he.
Well, the Yankees, it's their whole season is based on health, and that includes their starting pitching. I feel as though their starting pitching has been very much maligned ability-wise, but if they stay healthy, I feel as though they actually do have one of the better starting staffs. Can't say enough about the back end of their bullpen, and their offense. Their offense is quite solid, and their defense isn't terrible, save for a couple of spots. So I'm much higher on the Yankees this year than I was last year. I wasn't even sure if they'd finish at 500 last year.
Wow. I would say with this Yankee team, it will all depend on how healthy the old men are. You got Teixeira, who had a fabulous year last year. You've got Alex Rodriguez, who had a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous year last year. One guy in our league paid $6, picked $6 for Alex, and Alex hit 40 home runs. Another guy paid $6 for Teixeira, and Teixeira hit a raft of home runs. You've got Ellsbury, who has been hurt, who is the guy who makes the team go. You've got the guy in the middle, in center field. He's 38 years old. These are old guys. And if 1 or 2 of them get seriously hurt, the Yankees are in trouble, because I'm not sure that they have minor leaguers to pick them up. So that's how it will be determined. The pitching is also shaky. You've got your starting guy Tanaka, and you don't know the next time out He could throw his arm out. He could be done for the season. You just don't know. So once again, we're back to health. And
it's all about health.
Yeah, it's all about health with these guys. And the other pitchers in the starting rotation don't have a tremendous amount of experience. Eovaldi, who knows what's going to happen with him? Severino, who knows what's going to happen with him? They've got talent. Whether they can win in New York, that's always the question.
That's always a big thing. What is it about? Well, we know what it is about.
What is it
New
about
York,
it? You only have the entire city of New York looking over their shoulder.
Right. I said the world, right? And
right.
An unrelenting press, an absolutely. It's almost they're good at what they do. Even the headline writers, the big thing with Harvey in the news and all that, it's just showing that this kid is he's not gonna be a New Yorker. That's the way I think that in 3 years he'll be somewhere else, one way or the other.
I think sooner.
Or not. You don't know. I mean, he could have 3 great years. But
the way he handles the press, the way he reacts, is getting
Look, Roger Maris hated the press, too. All sorts of people hated the press.
I know, but
hang in there.
It didn't help Roger Maris. It didn't help Roger Maris's stay in New York. He couldn't get out.
He stayed in New York. He stayed in New York from 1960 to 1967. So he was in New York 8 years. And he was miserable the whole time he was there, but he won 3 most valuable players, and he had 61 home runs one year. I mean,
right?
You make a hell of a lot of money when you play in New York, and don't push old Harvey out of New York so fast. That may not.
Well,
happen.
I think he's going to. I'm just saying. I think he's going to push himself. I'm a Met fan. I like the idea that these 4 or 5 pitchers are together. But
you ought to. They're fabulous.
They are, and one of them, DeGrom, reminds me of Matlock so much. It's just good memories, and it's a good future. Memories that they evoke of past great pitching staffs is terrific.
Oh yeah,
and because you don't get a Seaver, Kuzmin, Gentry, those guys don't come along on one staff very often. And let me just chime in one thing about Matlack, and we're just about at the end of the time. I want to keep it kosher, as it were. Not about Matlack.
Let me interrupt you for a second. John Matlack pitched for the I think it was he pitched for the St. Pete Pelicans in the Senior League. I think he was.
I love talking about this,
pitcher.
Peter. Anytime. Peter wrote a book, for those of you who don't know. It's called Forever. Was it Forever Young or
Forever Boys? The Forever Boys.
Okay, and it was
Forever
about.
Boys.
Talk about it, Peter.
Yeah,
you loved
the Senior League.
The Senior League. You loved it more. That's how we first met. Because when I first met you, I said I could talk to you. I wanted you on the show. I could talk to you about Bums or about Dynasty. They were good books. But that book, from a baseball fan, to learn the game and learn how the game is so ingrained in these players that even when they retire, they can't retire. They can't give it up. Tell me about that book.
No. Baseball players die 2 deaths. The first death is the day they retire. There's no 2 ways about that. And the second death is obviously the day they die. I mean, these are people who have been playing the game since they were, 6 years old. And, most people, you get up to high school, if you're lucky to be a high school ball player, and then you quit, you go on to college, you study economics, become a lawyer or something, and that's the end of it. Other people, they're good enough in high school that they can play in college ball. And some of them, a few of them get to play in the minor leagues, and very few of those ever make it to the majors. What you don't see is how much work that these people put in, not only to get to the major leagues, but to stay in the major leagues. It boggles my mind. I mean, it used to be, Mickey Mantle never lifted a weight in his entire life. I mean, he was in a lead zinc mine when he was a teenager, and so he used the sledge, which made him incredibly strong as he came up to the Yankees. But today, your major league ball player works out every single day. Maybe he takes off Sunday, but chances are he doesn't. He works 12 months a year, 7 days a week, making sure that he's in physical shape to play the game. And they've taken away the steroids, unfortunately, for these guys. They've taken away the amphetamines for these guys. They've taken away just about everything. Do you understand how long a 162-game schedule is? I mean, I just got finished playing a 60-game softball schedule. It started in October, finished in April. We played 3 mornings a week. And that was 60 games, and that was tiring. These guys play 162 games. They play from March until October, sometimes November even, because of the playoffs. And They play almost every single day.
And they travel.
The traveling is very, very tiring.
Brutal. Yeah.
They're not living, in their homes. They're living in hotels. And yes, certainly they're first-class hotels, and the buses are first class. In 1985, I spent the season with the New York Mets. So I took the buses. I took the planes. I mean, I didn't play, and I was pooped. And these guys are playing. I mean,
you spent the entire team on the entire
not
year,
the entire season, but the month of September. I spent the whole. I did a book with Davey Johnson called Bats, and I spent the month of September with the Mets just so that I could get the feel of what was going on, and it was wonderful. It was just a fabulous experience. Mostly, I hung out with Sid Fernandez and with Rusty Staub and Gary Carter. They were the older guys on the team, so I hung out with those 3 for the most part. But I got to meet Dykstra. He was there, and quite a few of the guys who ended up being managers were there as well. The Minnesota manager for all those years, he was there. Gardenhire, the catcher who is now the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, he was on that team. Davey Johnson taught a lot of these guys how to manage, but the point that I'm trying to make is that it's exhausting. It's just exhausting, and when you're up in there, A-Rod is now 40 or 41. Tell me the name of their center fielder. It's just senior moment. The guy who's been playing for years. No.
No, you mean the right fielder, Beltran, the right fielder.
Beltran.
Oh,
yes, Beltran, the right fielder. Yes, Beltran, who's a marvelous player, but he is, what's the likelihood he's going to play 150 games? It's not great. You've got Didi Gregorius, who's a fine player, but how good is he going to be? I think they made a nice trade for the second baseman. That kid's going to be Castro's going to be a very good player. I thought that was a damn good trade. But Teixeira going to play 125 games? I don't know. Is A-Rod going to be able to play 130, 140 games? I don't know. He's
I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it by him.
I wouldn't either. Either. If those guys stay healthy.
Teixeira has been hurt for a long time, but But he's not the kind of guy that's brittle or injury prone per se. He doesn't go from one. He just has had some freak injuries. That's
but guys who have freak injuries tend to have more freak injuries, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see. We will see what we will see. Toronto is a mighty fine ball club. They came to the Trop for the first 4 games and played against us, and we were lucky to split with them 2-2. We got a break on a call that gave us the 3rd game, and then we beat them in the 4th game in the 8th inning. But Toronto's got an incredibly powerful lineup with a lot of tremendous hitting, led by Joey Bats and Encarnacion, but they got 3 or 4 other guys who are right up there with them too. That is
Donaldson.
quite. Donaldson. Yeah.
Donaldson.
How Oakland let that guy get away? It's just.
They also let Encarnacion get away as well.
Yep.
They had him for
Yep.
15, 20
Yep.
minutes.
Yep.
So, I know how they.
Donaldson is a moose. Donaldson's
a
moose, and he bats second. Imagine a guy like that batting second. Astounding.
Right. A lot of guys now are lineups are strange. Pitchers are batting eighth. Here and there.
Well, you want pitchers to bat eighth. I can see that because when you
if
got
you have 2 good leadoff
on,
men.
Yeah, you got speedy guys out the top of the order. You want to put a speedy guy down at number 9.
Right.
That's not your pitcher. Even though, and now we're only talking National League, of course. You don't have to worry about this in the American League, which is why they probably should have the DH in both leagues. But National Leaguers scream bloody murder whenever you say that. Pitchers hit about 100, so 1 in 10 times they get on. But that's all.
Well, I like National League format myself.
Oh, I know. National Leaguers do. They love it. I know that. I know that for a fact.
Okay. Hey, thank you, guys.
Glassboro.
This has been a very, very informative and fun and interesting show, as usual. Going to end it the way I generally do, just by telling everybody to keep on keeping on. Life's a roller coaster, up and down, in and out, round and around. Thank you, Wayne Unger. Thank you, Peter Golenbock, and we'll catch you on the flip-flop.
My pleasure. Have a great week. Take care, guys.
All right.
Have a good night, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
See you next week.